Pivot. Now more than ever, it's hard to change anyone's mind about anything. About who we should follow, who we should listen to, and what we think is going on in the world. All of us are holding tighter to what we believe than ever before. Our minds are made up. When is the last time you changed your mind? Asking questions doesn't weaken our faith. Wanting something different isn't the problem. What if our same old ways of thinking are keeping us from seeing the change we are looking for in our own lives and in this world? Paul's letter to the church in Ephesus challenges us to consider a wisdom that is not of this world and see people the way that God sees them, to see problems the way God sees them, and maybe even to see yourself the way God sees you. If we want to see real change, it's time to pivot and stop seeing everything the same old way and start seeing it God's way.
So I'm going to share two quick stories with you, and one's a little longer than the other. But I want you to think about something, and maybe as a kid you did the same thing that I did. And I remember, I was a baseball fanatic, and I'm still kind of a baseball fanatic as an adult. But I know now that the closer I get to 50, the more I realize that I will never play professional ball, right? The closer I get there, I go, well, that's never going to happen, right? I watch the game and I go, yeah, I can't hit like that anymore. I just know that. But when I was younger, like especially in my teens, I used to be able to emulate most of the swings of the people that played professional ball. Like especially anybody that was really good at the time. So like Mark McGuire, even Jose Canseco. I had no idea that those were the Bass brothers and they were shooting steroids at the time. I thought that they were both really good. They were A's guys, like Mark, Will Clark, all of those guys. I could emulate their swings because they were hitting home runs. They were stealing bases. And I was like, I want to be like those guys. And so, but I look back and I go, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted. I wanted to play ball. And I was like, these guys are making millions of dollars. I'm going to match what they're doing. I wanted to be like what they were like. And I think some of us, as kids, we looked at what other people were doing and we wanted to be like what they were. Anybody remember the tagline from when Michael Jordan was playing ball on a regular basis was "Be like Mike," right? Be like Mike. That's what it was. And I used to just copy that. I was like, oh, everybody wants to be like me. No, but see, that's not how it goes. Let me share this other story with you. In the late spring of 1823, Lady Harriet Tichborne of England received some terrible news. Bella, the boat her son Roger was traveling on, capsized, and her beloved son was presumed dead. But Lady Tichborne refused to believe. For the next year, she posted advertisements in newspapers across the world, hoping to find her missing son. People thought she was crazy. A year later, she received a reply. A man working as a butcher in Australia was claiming to be her son. He had a pipe with her son's initials on it, and he told stories of a terrible shipwreck he had been in. She asked the man to meet with an old servant of theirs who had moved to Australia. The servant was convinced, and she was overjoyed. Her son was coming home. When they met in Paris, she admitted the man looked a bit different than her son. He looked older, but she didn't care. As long as her son was home, who cared what he looked like? The rest of the family wasn't as convinced. There were too many issues. His age, his looks, the things he didn't know. He could no longer speak French, and he didn't seem to remember much of his early life. When the supposed Roger attempted to lay claim to his inheritance, the family brought him to court, and his true history came out. His real name was Arthur Orton, and the son of a London butcher. And although he had done some research on the real Roger, it wasn't enough to disguise who he truly was and who he truly wasn't. Have you ever wished to be someone, a hero, a role model, or just anybody else? Have you ever wished to be somebody else? And when you imitate someone else, you learn everything you can about them, just like I did with the baseball guys. I learned their swings. I learned their mannerisms. I learned their motivations. Money, right? I learned their different things. What makes them them? And you have to really listen to them. You have to watch what they do. You have to listen to all those things. And this whole last 4 weeks, we've been looking in Ephesians 4, and we're looking at we are looking to and who we are listening for answers to our questions and solutions for our desires and our perspectives about people around us. And see, because we're looking and listening to the wrong perspectives and the wrong sources, often we can pursue the wrong things and the wrong, and we see the wrong perspectives and experience the wrong things in life. This is why we're going to look one more time at some place we need to pivot at and the perspective that we need to change. So, because we can go back to this and we need to stop seeing everything the same old way and start seeing everything God's way. This has been the whole key line. This is the same line that we repeated all 4 weeks. And we've said, stop seeing everything the same old way and start seeing everything God's way. So when you're listening and you're looking for God's answers or perspective and the truth about who you are and where you belong in the church and in the world, we go back to Paul's letter to the church in Ephesus, and we go back to this. We find this entire chapter, this 4th chapter. Paul writes, and we're just looking at verse 21, when you heard about Christ and were taught in him in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus, you were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires. Now, I want to stop there for a second. See, your old self, so you became new in Christ. So Paul has already said, you became new in Christ. You have a new body. You are a new person. You are a new creation. You're all new. And yet you continue to go back and you have been corrupted by your old desires, your old life, your old past, your old thing. You have to pivot away from those old desires. And see, the problem is, too often, we look back to those old desires. We look back to those things. And see, the problem is, we know that those old desires, those old things, we know that those things bring destruction. We know that those things bring pain. We know that those things bring, they just, like, most of us ended up at the bottom of the barrel because of those desires. Those desires didn't lead us to good places. Those desires didn't lead us to places that we wanted to be. Some of us, they led us to places where you looked and you go, man, why am I wearing the matching bracelets being behind a locked cell door? Why is it that I'm selling my mom's TV? Why is it that I'm doing this? Why is it that I'm dealing with these situations? These desires led us to very terrible places. And see, what these desires we needed to pivot from, but we continue to go back to those old desires. We just do. We go back to them often. And see, the thing is that with this new creation, this new thing, it really means that we really, really need to move away from it. We need to actually go, I cannot continue to look back at it. I need to move away from that old desire. I need to move away from that old me. That's why when you oftentimes, when you go, if you ever talk to somebody who's coming out of addiction, the one thing that you're told often is, don't look back. Don't look back. Why? Because when you look back, you're going to get sucked back in. You just get pulled right back into it. You just like, oh, well, I looked back and my friend Johnny was still using, and my friend Johnny called me back, and all of a sudden I was using again with Johnny. That's what happens. Because friendship, there's nothing like friendship with an addict, because a friendship with an addict makes you an addict again. They're just like, unless you're both trying to get sober together, you're both going to get high together. That's what happens. those desires that just suck you in. And it says to be made new in the attitude of your mind. Like your whole mindset has to change. You have to change your whole mind, and to put on the new self is what it says. To be created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. See, true righteousness and holiness. So this righteousness, just discard that word for a second. That righteousness just means to be upright, to be good. But that holiness is to be set apart. You should be set apart. So, in your life, are you set apart from everybody else? Does your life look different than those from the people around you? Does your life look different than those that you live with? Does your life look, now, if the people that you live with, it should look kind of similar to them, because you should all be Christians, right? You should all be followers. But if you're living with roommates and you know that you're a follower and they're not, your life should be set apart. If your coworkers, if you're a follower of Christ and they're not, your life should be set apart. It should look significantly different than their life does. Your attitude, how you talk, how you interact, how you respond to people, it should look significantly different. And I don't care what you do. You could be the fry guy at McDonald's and your life can be significantly different. You could be at a restaurant. You could be at wherever. You could be a CEO of a major corporation. Your life can be completely set apart. It doesn't matter where you're at to be a follower of Jesus and to have a life that's set apart, to be holy. It doesn't matter where you're at. So you can't use this, well, I work at McDonald's. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can give 125% to Jesus. You physically can't give more than 125%. You can't give more than 100%, but just give 100% to Jesus. But, so, what might happen in your life if you listen to God more than anyone else, including yourself? If you listen to God more than anyone else, what might happen in your life? What would change? If you just started listening to the Spirit, that soft, subtle voice, if you just started listening to that more than even yourself, if you just started listening and go, God, what would you have me do here? What would happen? What would change in your life? What would happen all of a sudden? You know, and I know that this could seem like a scary idea. Would I lose myself? Would I miss out? Would I never figure out who I actually am? But, what if losing ourselves is how we begin to find what we are looking for? What if losing ourselves is actually how we begin to find what we are looking for? See, because I think often being so wound up within ourselves is what's causing us to make it to where we're not actually finding what God is in store for us. So, have you ever wondered why people post pictures, including you? They post pictures and thoughts of whatever it is on social media. Why do we post airplane shots out of the window? Anybody? You ever get in Melissa and I just took a flight. Actually, it was kind of an interesting flight. We flew from here to Seattle, and it was really the most interesting thing. I'd never experienced it. We looked out the window, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Travis Air Force Base. Like, it was like I literally I had to take that picture. I was like, that one, I'm gonna take it. We sent it to Haley, because Haley was actually working on the base. I was like, hey, there you are, right there. Like, you know, but I would never do it otherwise, right? I would never post it. Like, I've taken pictures of sunsets and stuff like that. I was like, that's a cool picture. Or like right above the clouds. I was like, that's cool too. But I would never post those, just because I don't post anything on Facebook usually. But because I think that you guys would be like, where are you going now? Like, that's what I get now. But see, here's the thing. Why do we post airplane shots? Who started the whole picture of our food on the plate? Like, who started that? Like, hey, I'm just going to be like, hey, be jealous of what I got today. Here's my picture of my T-bone. Here's this. I actually laid out the asparagus perfect for you. Like, I mean, like, who started this? Like, who started this whole thing? Like, where did this come from? You're like, who makes up the best sides and moments? Like, who did this? Like, who made this up? Who posted these things? Like, where did this come from? And see, that's where like, who do we think we are? Like, where did this come from? Where did these things start to come from? Where did all this come from? And I think it's like the looking glass moment, right? That's the looking glass, the self theory. And so, and you look through this, and it just kind of, it's first developed by an American sociologist, and his name's Charles Cooley. This theory states that a person's thoughts and feelings about themselves are formed based on the response of others. That's what they come out and say. And while the responses can be real or perceived, they impact a person's image of themselves. In other words, a person's thoughts and feelings are influenced by how they think others perceive them. Not with their real perceptions, but how they think others perceive them. It could be a real perception or how they think. You know, like, my wife and I deal with this on a regular basis. My wife thinks that I might be angry about something, and all of a sudden, she'll go, "Why are you angry?" And I go, "I'm not angry." She's like, "It certainly seems like you're angry." And I go, "You're going to get me angry by making me think that I'm like..." And she'll go, No, it seems like you're angry." And I go, "Well, I'm well on my way there now." But you know, it's kind of how it starts to roll. It's like you know, like it's like the perceived thing. She's like, it's just how your demeanor. And I go, "Well, do I look angry now? Because I am." Like, it's just like how it starts to get that way. And it's just how it starts to roll. It's how you perceive them. It's how it rolls. And see, over time, a person's self-esteem may increase or decrease if they constantly believe how another person may perceive them. That's how this is what this Charles Cooley believes, and when he came out, and also he comes out and he says, and so this is updated just a couple of years ago, and he comes out and he says, now this is also words of affirmation, this is also words of negativity. These are all things that this is all influenced. Now, we can also change this by being like how I am. You can also change this by just being like how I am. Just turn off that whole sensor and just go, "I don't care." Because that's how I am. I just go, "I don't care, whatever. You like my post, don't like my post. Like me, don't like me. I just don't care." You know, you can just be that way. But that also has detriments too, because then people go, "I think you're a narcissist," you know. See, if who we believe we are is affected by who others think we are, then it's probably pretty important to choose carefully who we listen to, though. You see, that's the thing. So we should surround ourselves with the right people then. So if we're listening to the right people, then we'll probably think better about ourselves. So we have to surround ourselves with the right people. Who are you surrounding yourselves with? Who's around you? Are you around affirming people, or are you around negative people? Like, who's closest to you? Like, are you around people close to you that are speaking life into your life, or are they speaking negativity? Like are they words of affirmation? Or are they just always like, "You suck. You're just a terrible person. Man, you're never going to amount to nothing." There's people who speak that way. There's people who speak that way to their children. And see, that's the thing, is that if you're talking that way, your children will never, ever amount to anything, because that's what they're believing. That's what they're hearing. If they're hearing that, then he's already proved that that's the level that they're going to feel. That's their self-esteem point. See, today we're going to look at someone who actually pushes back on something that Jesus says. You know, like most people never push back on it. Today we're going to look at it. And as we see, her humility is not only brings her closer to God, but actually it brings bold belief, and it changes everything, actually. So after feeding 5,000 people and walking on water, Jesus continues his travel and ministry and teaching in the area of modern-day Lebanon. And in this area beyond Jewish areas where most of his mission and ministry happens, and both Matthew and a disciple and an eyewitness, and Mark, an early follower of Jesus, write about this specific event. And so Matthew writes, leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to a region of Tyre and Sidon, and a Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. It's Matthew 15, 21 and 22. There's a reason why this is clearly identified as a Canaanite woman from that vicinity. So the reason why Matthew's giving this away a little bit, and what he thinks about this woman and how he describes her, and what he's saying is that this woman is Greek, right? He's giving this away, and he's saying that this woman is Greek. And Matthew chooses this, and he's saying this is where she's from, not saying who she is, right? And this is a pretty big deal, because he's saying Matthew is saying Jesus didn't come to help her, to rescue her, or to save her, or heal her daughter. He didn't say that. It's like Matthew is saying this. Because Matthew, the book of Matthew, despite her background, despite all of these things, she calls Jesus the Son of David. And while many of the Israelites of this time, they're considered the descendants of David. And Matthew often uses this name for Jesus and the prophecies of the Messiah. But despite being a stranger, she's clearly familiar with Jesus. She's clearly familiar with Jesus. And you have to remember, she not only doesn't question his claim, she never questions his claim, but she recognizes Jesus by his Masonic name and falls at his feet in worship. So she's a Greek, and she doesn't, and see, Jesus doesn't react immediately. See, there's a lot that's kind of happening here. So as you read this, there's a lot that's happening, and Matthew is writing this, and it's going to kind of open up here a little more. And so Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. Send her away. See, sadly, this is how often followers of Jesus respond when situations get difficult to deal with. This is how even today, by the way, not just back then, but even today, this is how we respond to people, and this is how we respond to things when it gets difficult. Just send it away. Just get rid of it. We listen to the people closest to us before we listen to God. We listen to people and they go, just send that away. Just get rid of that. And see, listening to God first is the key to seeing yourself and others correctly. Listening to God first is the key to seeing yourself and others correctly. So, putting God's perspective before anyone else's, including your own, pivots the possibility before our own imagination. I'll just tell you that now. So as you listen to this, interestingly, here's what Matthew says happens next. So here's what it says. So Jesus answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. And the woman came and knelt before him. Lord, help me, she said. He replied, it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Whoa here. What's going on? Did Jesus call this woman a dog? Isn't that what this kind of reads as? And it's important to remember. It's really important to remember that the telling of this story, Matthew wrote this. He wrote this for an audience. This book was written for a specific audience. It was written for the Jews. And so, if he wrote this for the Jews, that's the reason why when you open up Matthew, it opens up with the lineage of Jesus, because the population, the Israelites, they needed to see that lineage in order to be able to verify Jesus. They needed to see that, and so they needed to see some slander of some Greek and some, they need to see some of that. And so in order for this to be legitimized, they need to see some slander in here. So this is what you're seeing here. And so that's what you're kind of seeing here. And so it's important for this. And so does this mean that Jesus is prejudiced or sees this woman as unworthy? Not at all. But watch what happens here. He says, he just basically says, you're not the mission yet. You're just not the mission yet. And although the message will later spread and the doors will be open to Jews and Gentiles, and Jesus has come as the Messiah for the Jewish people first, is really what it comes down to. And finally, what matters most is often the only possible way of letting go of everything else. And so this desperate woman, hoping to save her daughter, decides to appeal to the heart of the gospel, and her faith creates this pivotal moment, not only for her, but for her daughter, and for the disciples, and for Jesus himself. And so Matthew writes her response, and she goes, "Yes, it is, Lord." She said, "Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." And Jesus says to her, "Woman, you have great faith, and your request is granted." And her daughter was healed at that moment. And in Mark's telling of her reply, he writes that Jesus says, "For such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." And so that word reply, so often I was talking to Terry this morning. Oftentimes you see words that are translated in the Bible, like this word reply. This word here is actually translated differently oftentimes. And so this word reply could be translated as word as well. And word back then is also the word is actually logos, Logos, and logos is the same word that John uses to describe Jesus. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. That word is Jesus, as that same word is being described as Jesus. So logos can be interpreted as reply or word. And so all of those, the same thing also turns into Jesus. So as you see this, there's all these things that opens up, and it's still the same thing that it explains in here. And so as you look at this and as you open it up, as you look at these things, Jesus is saying to this woman, for this word, this gospel that you have shared, your faith is being rewarded and your daughter is being set free. For your faith, for this word, for this gospel, for your faith, you're being set free. See, these passages in Matthew and Mark pair the meeting between Jesus and this woman and another meeting between Jesus and some Pharisees. And the second meeting, the religious leaders come to Jesus and they ask him why him and his disciples do not wash their hands before eating. Right? They go, why? And according to the law, that's what they ask him. And see, Jesus responds. Here's what Matthew says. Jesus replied, "And why do you break bread? Why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? For God said, honor your father and your mother. And anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is to be devoted to God, that they are not to honor their father or mother with it. Thus, you nullify the word of God for the sake of your tradition. You hypocrites, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. But these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules." Jesus called the crowd to him and said, "Listen and understand. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth is what defiles them." What comes out of the woman's mouth is an appeal to the gospel. That's what happens. That's what comes out of her mouth, is an appeal to the gospel, is an appeal for mercy and grace, regardless of who she is and where she's from. And those words are much more honorable than the words that are coming out of the mouths of Pharisees and the people who are supposed to be keepers of the law. They are much more honorable than that. And see, the changing that's happening is for better, and it's the possibility, the changing for the better is possible when we come and we become who God wants us to be. And see, that's what we're forgetting here. Everything becomes better when we change into who God wants us to be. Who are you becoming? Have you put away, in the beginning of this, we talked about putting away those desires, putting away the old self, putting away your old and putting on the new. What have you put away? What are those desires that you've put away? And what is it that you've stepped out of and stepped into? What newness have you stepped into? What is it that you're going, hey, there's a new thing that I'm doing? In this, when you look at this woman, she responds with humility. She is not arrogant. She responds with humility. She's not taking offense. She doesn't take offense at being ignored by the other disciples. She doesn't take offense at being referred to as a dog. Instead, she accepts her position and still asks for help because she's trying to change the mind of Jesus here. That's what she does. Who do you listen to when you first think about others? Who is it that you're responding with? Who are you holding on to? And who are you keeping? And what are you trying to find in that moment of need? Who are you going to? What are you doing? And what needs to change in your life to become who God needs you to be? Because God needs you to be somebody. God needs you to be somebody. He needs you to become somebody. See, I love there's a song that Matthew West he sings, and he goes, it's very simple, because I think some of us go, God, why don't you do something about this? God, why aren't you doing something about this situation? Why aren't you doing something about this? Why is it that, and he responds, he goes, I am. I sent you. I sent you to do something about this. And see, the response is, it's like always this pushback and going, you identified it, now why aren't you doing something about it? Why aren't you doing something about this situation? You saw it. Why aren't you doing something about the injustice that you've seen? Why aren't you doing something about what's right in front of you? Like it's very simple. As you're walking down the street and you see trash in front of you, you're like, man, somebody should really pick up this trash. Why don't you pick up the trash? Well, because you walk by and you go, it's somebody else's responsibility. Well, whose responsibility is it? If it's us going, we're part of this community, it's us that we're supposed to be doing this. Well, who is it that's supposed to do it? And we go, well, it's always going to be somebody else. It's always going to be us passing it on to somebody else. And it's like the same thing at our house. And it just happens. Our kids, we always go, oh no, the kids are going to do that. And I'm sure that our kids are looking at the dogs going, yeah, you're going to do that. And the dogs may be looking, and I don't know who the dogs are looking to. Like the dogs may be looking around going, I don't know who's going to do that, but somebody's going to do it. But that's how it is. Like we're always looking at going, well, that's beneath me. I'm not going to do that. Well, who's going to do it? And see, and we're going, God, why aren't you doing something about this? And God's gone, I did. I sent you. I sent you to do something about this. I sent you to address this. I sent you to take care of this. And how do you know that he sent you to take care of it? Because guess what? You saw it. You identified it. It broke your heart. You felt something about it. You were called to do something about it, and you just ignored it. See, that's the problem. Most of us ignore the things that we were called to do something about. We just walk past it. And I'm just using trash for an example. It could be something else way more significant. It could be child trafficking. It could be whatever it is. It could be anything. That could be something that's way more. It could be something that's way more significant than trash. And I'm just using trash as an example, but it could be something that God has called you to do that you've just continued to allow to just slide by because you're like, I'm just one person. What am I going to do about it? I'm just this person. What can I do about it? And I just want to let you know something, is that here we are 2,000 years later. We're literally 2,000 years later after Jesus, and we're talking about Jesus because of 12. We're talking about him because of 12. Because 12 went out. Afterwards, after he was crucified, 12 went out, and they shared the gospel, and they sacrificed. And some of them became martyrs, and some of them were crucified upside down, but they all went out. And it's because of those 12 that we're out here sharing this now. And millions and millions and millions and millions, and if you count Catholics, billions have been reached. So that's where you have to start looking at, and you have to start going, billions of people have been reached because of 12. And you just go, oh, I'm just only one person. Well, you could at least reach another person. You could reach maybe 5 people, and those 5 might reach another 5, and those 5 might reach another 5, and well, all of a sudden that's 15, and that 15 could turn into 45, and that 45 could turn into 90, and that 90 could turn into 180, and that 180 could turn into 360, and that 360, all of a sudden you've reached 1,000 people, and you've only started with 5. I just want to let you know that 5 turns into a lot very fast. Anybody ever heard the doubling a penny? Would you take $1 million today, or would you take a penny doubled for a year? Anybody? You take a penny double for a year, by the way. I just want to let you know. Penny double for a year gets you like $4 billion, by the way. You want a penny doubled. Anyway, so how do we transform our faith to such a way that with our every breath, and every word, that we're living the gospel just like the way that this woman was in the past? What do? First, we must better know and we must better understand the heart of God. That's what we have to do. We have to better know and better understand the heart of God. To imitate somebody, especially Jesus, you have to better understand them. You have to. That's what we talked about at the beginning of this. You have to know him. You have to be able to imitate him. You have to know him better. We must be able to understand and better imitate the heart of God. That's the next slide, by the way. So we have to better know him. And see, here's the thing. See, and I've used this analogy before in the past. You can know of Jesus, right? You can know of Jesus. You can be like, well, he was born on December 25th. He was born in a manger. He had, like his mom's name was Mary. His dad's name was Joseph. He had this. He had these things. But that's knowing of him. You have to know him. You have to know him. Like you have to have a relationship. Like you have to know him to be able to like if we go back to the beginning of this and we talk about the story where this lady, she shares about and she goes, hey, I'm looking for my son, and this guy knew some facts about her son, but he didn't know him, because if he knew him, he'd be able to go, well, I know some details, I know about his history, I know about these things, so he would be able to probably get a little further along. But in this case, how much do you know Jesus? How much do you know his heart? How much do you know to be able to share of him, to share of his history, to share how he feels about certain situations? How do you know him? How much do you know of him? To see, and see just how do you understand the purpose of Jesus? And she sees, and for her, she sees what will be, and she believes that people outside of the Jewish community are going to have a place at God's table. So you have to believe that same thing. And she believes that her daughter will be healed. And she believes that Jesus is going to honor her. And she believes that Jesus is going to take care of her. See, she had no idea how Jesus was going to respond, but she believed that Jesus was going to care for her and love her. The way that he does honors that. He honors that faith, and he honors that belief. And he would do the same for you. He'll honor that faith and that belief, and he'll honor that. That's the character of God. That's what he does. Here's what it says. It says, the Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and rich in love. And the Lord is good to all, and he has compassion on all, and on all he has made. That's Psalms 145, 8 and 9. Do you believe that? Do you believe that he has compassion on you? You have to get to know his character and study who he is and ask him questions. Because when you do, your faith will grow and your life will pivot. That's what will happen. And you will get to see others the way that God does. You will get to see yourself the way that God sees. And see, I think a lot of times we don't look at ourselves the way that God sees us. I think we see all the negatives, and we see such, like, we don't look at the mirror and go, man, you're wonderfully made. We don't look at the mirror and say that to ourselves. We look at the mirror and we're like, man, like, I think that some of us get in the mirror, look in the mirror and go, you are ugly. God doesn't think you're ugly. God looks at you and goes, you are beautiful. I made you. I created you. I breathed life into you. I made you to do wonderful things. I made you to do more than you could ever imagine. I'm telling you, God made you for a specific purpose, to reach somebody, to love somebody, to do something magnificent. And I think that most of us don't believe that. And I know that God has done something for each one of us. And he said, he's called you his mighty warrior, his mighty princess. He's called you he said, hey, I'm calling you to go and do things more than you can imagine and go within the strength that you already have. Go out and do the work. And I think that so many of us go, what am I going to do? You're just one person. Go reach one. Go reach two. Go reach five. Go out with the strength that you already have. Next, go honor God. Go honor God's ways with your heart, not just your lips. Honor God with doing everything that you're supposed to. Don't just talk about it. Don't just give lip service. See, there's a difference between reciting knowledge and pivoting and pivoting knowledge and transforming your hearts. So there's a difference. You can say the right things, and then there's the difference of doing the right things, right? You can say, hey, I can talk about it. I love the line that I've stolen from Francis Chan. You know, like you could tell your daughter, go clean your room. Like if I told my daughter, go clean your room, and I've told her like lots of times, I say, hey, go clean your room. And she'll go to her room, and then she'll come back hours later. I go, did you clean your room? And it would be great. In fact, she might crack me up if she did this, by the way. If she came back to me and she was like, I said, hey, did you clean your room? And she'd be like, not yet. She's like, but I can tell you, go clean your room in ancient Greek. Okay. And I can tell you, go clean your room in Hebrew. And I can tell you, I prayed about go clean my room. I'd be like, okay, but did you actually go clean your room? No. Okay, so you studied how to clean your room, you prayed about cleaning your room, and you can tell me go clean your room in Greek and Hebrew. Yes, but you didn't clean your room. No. Okay, let me take this belt off. And see, there's a difference. You can know what to do. You can say it in Greek, you can say it in Hebrew, you can say, I prayed about it, and then there's actually doing what you're supposed to do. See, you guys, we have to actually do what you're supposed to do. Like, it's very simple. Jesus said, I gave you 2 things to do. And in fact, he gave us 3 things, but he gave us 2 really simple things to do. Anybody know what they are? Love God and love others, right? It's pretty simple, right? I mean, they're actually really difficult to do, but they're pretty simple. He didn't give you a whole lot of things like, hey, go study the Bible, go do this. He said, no. He said, all I want you to do is love God and love others, right? Both are really difficult to do, though, because I mean, loving God is easy, but loving the others is kind of hard. But see, the problem is if you don't love others, you probably don't love God. Kind of difficult. I mean, it's really the problem here. So, because if you can't love God's creation, then you really can't love God. And so if you're going, oh, I really love God, but I really hate people, well, then you're not loving God. So just kind of think that through. You know, you'd be like, man, Mike, I'm doing really good at this whole love God thing. You're probably not. And so just kind of transform your mind there a little bit. So let's get back to loving God, loving people. So work really hard at loving God and loving people. And what does that look like? Well, just go back to the 10 Commandments because that's what it looks like. That's how you love God and that's how you love people. He just broke them down really simple. He gave you the first 4 and the second 6 in 2 commandments. That's what he did. So just look through those and said, hey, I'm going to love God and I'm going to love people. And just try and figure out how to do that and how he broke it down really simplistically. I'm going to love God. I'm going to love people. And then I'm going to go out and do the third thing. I'm going to go tell other people about him and make some disciples. I'm just going to go share the gospel. I'm just going to go share about him. I'm going to go tell people about this Jesus, about what he's done in my life and how he's changed me and how he's taken me from a place of being broken and a place of of suffering, and he's taken away these desires that led me to a place of destruction and pain and sorrow and anger, to a place of joy and happiness and forgiveness, and a place where I find joy in the company of others and love. Man, isn't it just become so much easier to share that? Isn't that just so much easier than any other complicated measure that we put in place? I think I've made it pretty simple, right? Kiss, right? Isn't that what it is? I don't want to tell you what that means. Ask your neighbor if you're trying to figure it out. All right. Do not be intimidators. Be transformed. That's what I want you to put down. Because here's what it says in Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good and pleasing and perfect will. And so, finally, number 3, speak the words of God. That's number 3. Just speak the words of God. See, when we put off our old selves and discover who God really is, he will change us, and he'll change everyone around us. I'll just tell you that now. Do you know, the more that you talk about God, the more that you share Jesus, the more that you continue to ooze Jesus and love off of you, do you know that people that do not want anything to do with that will seem to walk away from you? Do you know that? I'll just tell you now. The more that you are praying in public, the more that you're sharing Jesus, the more that you're just oozing Jesus off of you, you will find that people that do not want anything to do with Jesus, they will not be around you. They just will not be there. They will just not exist in your life any longer. You will not have to shoo them away. I just promise you that. You will not have to be like, devil, get away, because they will just leave on their own. All you have to do, just do this one time in public. Just be out there just one time. Just drop to your knees and just go, Father, help me get through the rest of the day. And you'll look around and you'll be like, where did everybody go? Why are you looking at me crazy? Because she's like, I'd walk away from you right now. If you did that in the mall, I'd walk away. But if you did this, I'm just telling you right now, people are going to walk away from you, and they're going to be like, I don't want anything to do with you. But I'm just telling you right now, this is the fastest way to get people that do not want anything to do with Jesus away from you. I'm just telling you right now. And even some people that want things to do with Jesus, they're going to be like, I don't want that. And the reason why I bring this up, the more that you are like Jesus, because here's the thing. Melissa and I, we were driving back from Lake Tahoe one time. And we were on our way back, and we stopped in the parking lot of a place. And I will tell you, and while I may not agree with their culture, I will tell you, a guy got off the road at the same time, and it was lunchtime. And all of a sudden, he breaks out his prayer mat, puts it down next to his car, and he started praying. And I just said, and I just sat there, and I just looked at it, and I said, that's a different faith than what I have. That's a different faith than what I have. And see, the difference was that he took the time, he said, I'm getting off the freeway, and I'm going to pray because that's what I'm called to do. And see, the difference is that when you stick to that, all of a sudden, you're living your faith in a different manner than what we are living our faith at. And all of a sudden, people around you are going to be different. They're going to see different. Did you know that for centuries and centuries, people prayed the Lord's Prayer every day at noon? Every day at noon, they would pray the Lord's Prayer. They would come together and pray the Lord's Prayer. It's something that we've abandoned since the beginning of the 19th century. But everybody else, for the longest time, they would pray the Lord's Prayer on a rhythm. There's an app called Lecto 365. I would encourage you to download the app, Lecto 365. It's a morning prayer, it's a lunchtime prayer, it's an evening prayer. And you may not agree, like it can read to you, you can read it. If you want the long version, have it read to you. It's very peaceful. It'll put you to sleep at night. But it's really a great thing. And at lunchtime, it's literally just the Lord's Prayer. In the morning, in the evening, in lunch, and in the evening. But I would really encourage you to just try to start a habit of prayer. Try to start this thing where you're spending time in prayer, and you'll find that the more time that you're spending in prayer, the more that you will see the circle of influence around you, you're changing that around you. Even if you're not doing this public prayer, you will find that you have a whole different group of people around you. It just changes things dramatically. And it's really amazing. So start speaking more words of God and start speaking more time with God. Start spending more time in prayer with God, and you'll see how things change dramatically. So, I think that's all I got. I do. So let's close in prayer. Father, thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to share your word, to be able to share who we are, who we think we are, and who we are in you. Father, we're just excited to be able to go out and emulate you, to be able to share you with our coworkers, with our friends, with our family. And it really is just simple to love you and to love them and just to share you. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be more than what you've done in our life. Share our testimony. And I know that for some of us, we're just kind of getting started in what you've done in our life, but you've already done something in each one of our lives. You've already, whether it's just bringing us in and sharing joy or surrounding us with new friends, or maybe it's just even that we went on a retreat and we just connected and we found rest and we found joy to where we can just come back and deal with our kids again. You know, like, Father, we just had this newness. Like, we just had something new that we just had this ability to be able to do it all over again. And so, Father, we all have a story to share. And I know that some of us, we feel as if we're just going through the motions. We feel that we're just trying to move in this direction, and help us to cast that off. Help us to cast off this repetitive, just doing the same thing over again, and help us to find this renewing of something that you're doing in our life, this renewing of joy, this renewing of happiness, this renewing of what you've called us to. It's renewing to do new life with you, to cast away these old desires, to cast away this past, this old life, and to do this new thing with you. Father, you've called each one of us into this new life, this new thing with you, and to do something way more than what we've ever thought of. Called us to be mighty warriors. He told Gideon, he said, I am the least, I am the smallest of my clan. And he said, stop looking at yourself the way that human eyes look at we need to stop looking at ourselves the way that human eyes look at us, and we need to see ourselves the way that you look at us. You see us as these mighty warriors, these mighty princesses, these mighty kings and queens, and we're going to go out and we're going to conquer as you've called us to. You said, go with the strength that I've already given you, and you've already said that if I am with you, then who could be against you? So help us to go out and fight these wars that really we've already won. Father, I've already read the last 3 books of Revelations, and the last 3 chapters of Revelations, and I know that we win. And so help us to just see the battles being won and fought here now, because we know that we win the war. So Father, thank you. Thank you for today. And again, thank you for the opportunity to just be able to share. It's in your Son, Jesus' name. And we all prayed and said, amen.